Anytime they come to threaten me, I'll do the same thing again and again and again.
First of all, on the issue of critical race theory, et cetera, I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. But I do think it's important, actually, for those of us in uniform to be open-minded and be widely read. And the United States Military Academy is a university. And it is important that we train and we understand. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white, and I want to understand it. So what is it that caused thousands of people to assault this building and try to overturn the Constitution of the United States of America? What caused that? I want to find that out. I want to maintain an open mind here, and I do want to analyze it. It's important that we understand that because our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians, they come from the American people. So it is important that the leaders, now and in the future, do understand it. I've read Mao Zedong. I've read Karl Marx. I've read Lenin. That doesn't make me a communist. So what is wrong with understanding, having some situational understanding about the country for which we are here to defend? And I personally find it offensive that we are accusing the United States military, our general officers, our commissioned, non-commissioned officers, of being, quote, woke or something else because we're studying some theories that are out there. That was started at Harvard Law School years ago, and it proposed that there were laws in the United States, antebellum laws prior to the Civil War, that led to a power differential with African Americans that were 3/4 of a human being when this country was formed. And then we had a Civil War and Emancipation Proclamation to change it. And we brought it up to the Civil Rights Act in 1964. It took another 100 years to change that. So look, I do want to know. And I respect your service, and you and I are both Green Berets, but I want to know. And it matters to our military and the discipline and cohesion of this military.
In my previous discussions with service members and particularly officers, I would hear about complaints over parts not arriving on time, long deployments, and in my more recent discussions with those officers, the number one issue that they raised to me with concern, often unable to speak publicly for fear of the type of retribution that Lieutenant Colonel Lohmeyer faced, they say that your stand down regarding extremism did not help our military, it hurt the military. And I want to share with you that perspective, that it caused service members to otherize one another, it impaired group cohesion. How should the Department of Defense think about critical race theory?
Could I make a comment, Secretary? I'm sorry.
Well, I'm very limited on my time, General Milley.
Well, I just want to make a comment that the feedback
I know, but
I've gotten
I've asked the question to Secretary Austin.
I don't know what the issue of critical race theory is and what the relevance here with the department. We do not teach critical race theory. We don't embrace critical race theory, and I think that's a spurious conversation. And so we are focused on extremist behaviors, and not ideology, not people's thoughts, not people's political orientation. Behaviors is what we're focused on. And one final point, and thanks for your anecdotal input, but I would say that I have gotten 10 times that amount of input, 50 times that amount of input on the other side that have said, hey, we're glad to have had the ability to have a conversation with ourselves and with our leadership. And that's what we need to make sure that we remain a cohesive organization.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Secretary, it may be that you're receiving that input in the ratios you describe because it was your directive.
I want to be very clear. The military needs to be open to all Americans. Absolutely. That is the strength of the United States military. But once we're in, we bleed green and our skin color is camouflage. We're worried about that American flag on our shoulder. That's the only thing our enemies are worried about. I think we can agree there. But the other thing that they raised to me was a seminar that over 100 cadets attended titled Understanding Whiteness and White Rage, taught by a woman who described the Republican Party platform as a platform of white supremacy. This is going on at West Point as we speak to our future military leaders. And sir, I would encourage you, I would demand that you get to the bottom of what is going on in the force, and further, for what it means for civilian oversight of the military. When our future military leaders are being taught that the Constitution and the fundamental civilian institutions of this country are endemically racist, misogynist, and colonialist, and therefore it is their duty to resist them. What does that mean for a future cadet who one day will be sitting where you are?
This is not something that the United States military is embracing and pushing and causing people to subscribe to. Now, whether or not this was some sort of critical examination of different theories, I don't know. But
we need to understand our past. I want to be very clear, but can you agree at least that understanding whiteness and white rage presented in Ike Hall over 100 cadets probably is something that we shouldn't be teaching our future leaders of the United States Army?
As you have described it, it certainly sounds like that's something that should not occur. Again, I would like to know the specifics of the...
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
My name is Mark McCloskey. A year ago, an angry mob crashed through my gate and threatened my life, my family, and my home. And I stood on the front porch with my AR-15 and I backed the mob down. Well, recently the prosecutor has dropped the charges against me, except for a claim that I purposely placed other people in imminent fear of physical harm. And by God, I did. And anytime they come to threaten me, I'll do the same thing again and again and again to protect myself, my home, my family, and our rights as human beings. A vote for McCloskey is a vote for standing your ground. Vote for me and we'll never back down.
I extended my hand to shake his hand. He just stared at me. I, greeted Congressman Clyde. I was very cordial. I extended my hand to shake his hand. He just stared at me. I asked him if he was going to shake my hand, and he told me that he didn't know who I was. So I introduced myself. I said that I was Officer Michael Fanone, that I was a DC Metropolitan Police officer who fought on January 6th to defend the Capitol. And as a result, I suffered a traumatic brain injury as well as a heart attack after having been tased numerous times at the base of my skull, as well as being severely beaten. At that point, the congressman turned away from me, pulled out his cell phone. It looked like he was attempting to pull up like an audio recording app on his phone, and again, like never acknowledged me at any point. As soon as the elevator doors opened, he ran as quickly as he could, like a coward.
I can tell you, the House floor was never breached, and it was not an insurrection. This is the truth. There was an undisciplined mob. There were some rioters and some who committed acts of vandalism. But let me be clear, there was no insurrection, and to call it an insurrection, in my opinion, is a bold-faced lie. Watching the TV footage of those who entered the Capitol and walked through Statuary Hall showed people in an orderly fashion staying between the stanchions and ropes taking videos and pictures. You know, if you didn't know the TV footage was a video from January the 6th, you would actually think it was a normal tourist visit.
I experienced the most brutal, savage, hand-to-hand combat of my entire life, let alone my policing career, which spans almost 2 decades.
That's what happens when you put somebody that has lied to his constituents, that's frankly afraid of telling his constituents the truth in front of a hero.
There are major cities across the country where gun violence is absolutely the driver, where it is absolutely increasing. And that will be a central part of what he'll talk about when he delivers his remarks tomorrow.
You said yesterday the president feels a great deal of the crime we're seeing is a result of gun violence, but the stats show it's not just gun crimes. So why does the president think there's been a 30% increase in car thefts in D.C., 47% increase in robbery in New York City, or a 98% increase in rapes in Atlanta?
Well, first, I think if you look at a number of cities across the country, it is actually driven by gun violence. Take St. Louis. In 2021, 96% of homicides where the instrument is known were committed using a firearm. In New York City, from March 2020 to March 2021, shooting incidents have jumped 77%. The city recorded more than 1,500 shootings in 2020, 97% more than 777 in 2019. There are major cities across the country where gun violence is absolutely the driver, where it is absolutely increasing. And that will be a central part of what he'll talk about when he delivers his remarks tomorrow.
And given everything that is going on with guns, without guns, does the president still think that this is the best time to end cash bail?
I don't think I have any new position on that for you, but I'm happy to check and see if there's anything more to report.
So his stated position from his website, which is that basically end cash bail, he wants to lead a national effort to end cash bail and reform the pretrial system, that stands?
I don't have a new position for you, but I'm happy to check for you.
And so for people who are watching who might be worried about a rise in crime, what does the president think is a deterrent to committing a crime if there's no cash bail in place?
Well, let me give you just a sense to the degree I can, because we're still finalizing the specifics. There's been an increase in violent crime over the last 18 months. It's not just over the last few months, and actually if you look statistically back, it's more over the last 5 years or so. So there's an initial set of actions the president has announced to date to address gun violence back in April, strengthening regulations on ghost guns, stabilizing braces that make firearms more lethal, investing money in community violence intervention programs, an investment that he thinks can be quite effective. He's talked about for decades, and I think you'll hear him talk about more tomorrow, supporting additional funding for community policing through his budget request and helping state and local governments keep cops on the beat. So yes, we believe that a central driver of violence is gun violence and is the use of guns. We're seeing that statistically in a lot of areas, but he also believes that we need to ensure that state and local governments keep cops on the beat, that we're supporting community policing, and that's a key part of it as well.
And just the last one, you just said again, you guys want to keep cops on the beat, but there are reports that big cities are having a very difficult time recruiting officers right now, and there are many other reports that morale is at an all-time low in big police departments. So why does the president think that there's low morale with police officers on the beat?
I don't think we're the right entity to give an assessment of that. I'd certainly look to the police departments to give that assessment. But what I would say to you is that the president has never supported defunding the police. He's always supported community policing programs. He's supported giving funding to states and localities around the country, including through his American Rescue Plan, because he thinks there is an essential role to play for community policing.
I was impressed by the invisibility of this business. I was there and I was documenting it, and still I had the impression that so much of it was invisible to me, even if I had it in front of me. As a photographer, I don't think that it is legitimate to feel in the position to tell people what to do, but I do believe in the importance of sharing my experience, my subjective experience, to give people the knowledge to be able to make informed choices for themselves for what they consider right. And in my experience, I saw and I realized a lot of things that are not right with this business. The very first thing that impressed me was the contrast between the sea, the beauty of the sea, and the presence of lines and lines of these cages. One farm has dozens of cages, and in every one of these cages are between 120,000 to 70,000 fish. These fish farms produce a lot of waste, uneaten food, feces, chemical substances, artificial substances. I think it's totally fair that people don't think about this type of waste because it's underwater. We simply cannot see it. In the process of documenting this industry, it was not possible to avoid more emotional images of what happens, of the experience of the fish. Having these buckets full of ice is a method that is commonly used to slaughter fish on industrial fish farms, and is supposed to kill the fish by temperature shock. It is described as a very efficient killing method, but in my experience and what I documented, some of the fish was still alive at the end of the processing and was still alive when it was in the packages already. Empathizing with the fish is absolutely important, but I also really want to stress consumers not really understanding the magnitude of the business, of how it impacts environments and communities, and what it means to feed this business. In my experience, I've seen fish farms damaging the place where they are installed, occupying entire bays, entire coasts. To multiply that for all the farms that exist worldwide gave me a sense of vertigo. We barely acknowledge the waste that we produce every day by industries on land, even when they're close to us. I am not surprised that people don't think about the waste that's produced by businesses that are far away and underwater. When people see this photo essay, I hope that these images feed a curiosity to generally research more about what we choose to do and what we choose to buy and how we choose to behave. Because we live in a society where behaviors are sold as a pre-made package that seems to be so simple, and not a lot of people have the chance to actually investigate and to actually research what's behind those simple actions that they perform every day.